Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogstye. This is your host, Alex East, with you. I got Steve here. Jamal is taking a couple of shows off, a couple of these weekday shows off. I think he said, I don't know, birthday or something. I can't remember.
How dare him prioritize life over this show?
Yeah, right?
That's no good.
Yeah.
The show comes before everything.
Well, except for Thanksgiving, because we were talking about moving around. I was like, oh, let's move it. Oh, no, wait, we can't do it on Thanksgiving.
Thank God we don't have a Thanksgiving Day game again. Y'all don't know how horrible it is to have to do this on Thanksgiving Day. And how many times have we done it? Like every year but 1 year, I think.
Yeah, I think 3 years in a row we had it. Yeah, because it was, we played the Cowboys, then we played the Giants, then we played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
I think there was another year in there, too, somewhere. But
somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing that is nice is I think we've won most of those somehow.
I just think it's like the NFL punishing Washington for bad karma by making them play on Thanksgiving every year.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what it is? Ironically, it's that those games actually pull in really good ratings when Washington's playing Dallas because of the rivalry.
Rivalry, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. No, I know. I mean, that's obviously why, because Dallas does it every year, and who better to have a classic rivalry on Thanksgiving than Washington? But they don't care about those of us in the media who do this every year. You know, just think about us. That's all I'm saying. Give us a break.
Right. Well, and I've always said I would at least get rid of one Thanksgiving game. I would go like early game, get rid of the middle one, and have a late night game.
I think the late night game is too much. I would do the 2-day games and get rid of the night game.
See, I think you should give people like a 4-hour window to actually sit down with your family and have dinner, so people aren't just sitting in front of the TV like jerks at Thanksgiving.
I mean, there's logic to that. You know, there is.
That's my logic. It's the best meal you get all year. Eat it.
But just by the time the night game rolls, maybe it's because we've been doing the show all these years on Thanksgiving. But it's like by the time the night game gets around,
it's exhausting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's even. I think we might have had Washington as a night game on Thanksgiving 1 year. That was really awful.
Yeah, versus the Giants. It didn't end till like midnight or something.
Yeah, we did like Hogstye late night on Thanksgiving. Just the worst ever.
Yeah. Not a good one. All right. Well. We're not quite at Thanksgiving yet, so we should probably talk about this week's game and what's going on this week with the football team. Minor announcement the team made. Wale is going to play the Monday night game halftime show when we play Seattle. That's a reminder, Steve. We have a late night coming up.
Oh, I know. We have Hogstye late night coming up.
Yeah.
Look, if anybody out there is a hip-hop fan, can you tell me... email us or tweet at us or something. Tell me, is Wale a big deal or not? Is he just a big deal in DC, or is this a dude who's really in the hip hop scene? Because I have no idea whatsoever.
You and I are
I'm
old
curious.
white dudes. We are not his demographic.
Yeah, no, we're not who he's aiming at. So I want somebody out there to tell me, is Wale a real thing, or is this just like a DC thing?
Right.
I'd like to know.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's a big deal, but like, is he a bigger deal here because he's from here? I think that's the way to put it.
Yeah, is he a national name? I mean, I don't know.
I think he is a national name. I don't know if he's like superstar level.
Like Travis Scott level, or formerly Travis Scott level.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's a bad comparison, but yes.
Yeah. Let's not get into Travis Scott right now. All right, so other things going on. We touched on the Sam Huff passing after the game. I didn't know if you wanted to, because we really kind of ran through it quick because we were running behind.
No, I mean, I think he meant more to you than me. I mean, I'm sorry he's gone, and best wishes to his family, but it didn't hit me like it kind of hit you for whatever reason.
I listened to Sonny, Sam, and Frank on the radio the whole time, from like 1990 as far as I can remember till they quit. So
they were great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it just, I don't know. It just didn't hit
I'm also
me
a big radiophile, so that's probably why.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, rest in peace, Sam.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we just get into what we got coming this week?
Do
There's roster
moves
moves,
first?
injury
Yeah.
reports, and all that stuff. So let's get through that.
Okay, so roster moves. Obviously, the big one is Chase Young is down for the count with an ACL tear. I don't think we know the full extent of the knee injury yet, but he is on IR and is gone for the year. I don't follow social media anymore, but I mean, I haven't seen or heard anywhere a detail about specifically how bad the knee is, other than just ACL. So unless you have something,
they haven't said how bad it is, but I mean, people are saying it's probably a full tear. So
okay, yeah, and so you got to think 12 months probably for him. To replace him, they brought Daniel Wise up from the practice squad. And then to replace Daniel Wise, they signed Gabe Wright to the practice squad, who, if you remember, he was here in the offseason. And then they had an extra tight end spot to fill. And so that is Tamarick Hemingway, who was with this team for the offseason also.
Right.
And then Sadiq Charles is off of the coronavirus list, so he's back on the active roster. And so those are the roster moves. Now,
relatively
injury report.
Quiet. I mean, it's a big deal that you lose Chase and Ricky Seals-Jones, but they didn't make any big moves here.
Well, interestingly enough, Ricky Seals-Jones is not on IR, so he's on the injury report, meaning they kept him on the active roster.
Interesting.
Yeah. So since we're doing it, let's just get in. I'll just do the injury report.
Right.
So the injury report was Sadiq Charles didn't practice Wednesday, but he's back. So we already said that. Kendall Fuller, DNP for knee injury. Curtis Samuel, DNP, always. Ricky Seals-Jones, the hip, didn't practice. And like I said, they did not put him on IR. So that means that they think he's going to be back in 3 or 4 weeks at least for the hip. I haven't seen anything personally about how bad it was, but that's a good sign that he's on the injury report. Benjamin St. Juste, concussion. DNP. Somehow we overlooked that after the Tampa game, I think, but he's out with a concussion. Sam Cosmi in his ankle, limited. Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, shoulder. Samus Reyes somehow got an injury. I don't know how a guy who doesn't play get injured, but Brandon Scherf is back on the injury list because he's Brandon Scherf with the knee, and then Danny Johnson, wrist injury, full practice. And on the Carolina side, their injury report is very, very minor. And we're going to get in the big name, obviously, Sam Darnold, and we're going to get into his replacement here during the show. But they only have 4 names on the injury list. They're all backups. Only 1 DNP. So the aside from Darnold and the quarterback situation, they're basically pretty close to full health. And that's injuries.
Yeah, that is it. All right, well, why don't we get into this? I think we have to start with Sam Darnold's replacement, as you so elegantly put it there, because that's going to be the headline story of this whole game here. Cam Newton returns to Carolina. He is back on his old team, when's the last time you really saw a starter leave his old team and come back? I don't remember that happening.
Especially a guy off the street like that for a new coach. I mean, because... I
remember Nick Foles did this, but Nick Foles was like a career backup. Remember, he started
Nick
with
Foles
the
is
Eagles.
not like a league MVP level player.
Right, exactly. So that's a little wild when you think about that part. Cam Newton's back. He played what, 8-10 plays or something like that last week?
He didn't play much last week.
I can just look at his stats because that's the number of plays, right? He had 4 attempts. He had, I think, 3 runs, so let's say 7 plays.
Yeah, he had the 2 touchdowns,
one pass.
I mean, I've always said on this show that I think Cam Newton's washed up, and I don't know if the fact that he came back to Carolina means he's all of a sudden not washed up. I mean, I just think his arm is shot from what I've seen of him. I mean, here's his career numbers. He's a career 60% passer.
Right.
And the best year he had from that respect was 2018, 68%. But by and large, other than that year, he's been in the high 50s, low 60s for the most part his entire career.
Right.
He's not that accurate a passer. That's not really his game. He's not going to, like, he wouldn't work in Jay Gruden's West Coast offense. He's a bombs away type of quarterback. does that a lot. But I don't know what he has left. I always thought he was a weird mix in New England, which is probably why he's not there anymore.
Yeah, it never made sense to match him with Belichick.
No, I didn't think so either.
Yeah.
And
Even if you like Cam Newton, I think you can admit that that's not a good mix.
I agree with you. So what are we going to see? First of all, let's assume that. I'm assuming he's going to start.
Right. I don't think they do what they did last week with PJ Walker taking, 80% of the snaps and giving Cam the other 20 or something like that.
Well, yeah, and part of it was that Cam got there like literally 2 days before the game.
Right.
They can't just throw him out there. I mean, they could.
Oh yeah,
but
I understand that.
because PJ Walker, my goodness, undrafted free agent,
Yeah.
I mean, rookie. I mean, what do you do? So, or he's not a right second-year player, but regardless,
Yeah.
I just don't think Cam's what he was in his heyday. Obviously, that's not great insight. I think we're going to see a lot of running.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Carolina receivers are all that good, and at least not who's on the field now. I mean, Robbie Anderson's their leading receiver, basically.
Yeah.
And Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, those two guys. DJ Moore is big time. I guess I shouldn't overlook him.
No. DJ Moore is a very good receiver.
Yeah, right. But I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling the bigger problem is going to be stopping him in the run more than anything, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so if you look at how Cam can still run and how good he is still in these read option college-type plays, he's still very effective in that mode because he still is a big dude, hard to bring down. He doesn't have the speed he used to have, and let's be honest, Cam Newton never had elite speed.
That wasn't his thing.
Yeah, he was a power-running quarterback, which was such a freak, rare thing to see. And I'll be honest, you might never see another quarterback like Cam Newton again. That's a very rare combination of size and ability.
Well, and he was a runner in college, and you could kind of see, like, he's not Lamar Jackson. This is an inside runner.
He bounced outside last week, so he can do it, but he's not breaking away from people like Lamar.
No.
Or RG3.
I mean, he's
or
big dude, 6'5", 245,
right.
So obviously the whole game revolves around him. If we see any sort of semblance of the real Cam Newton, will the real Cam Newton please stand up? It could be a problem, but I could be wrong, but I just don't see him like resurrecting. I mean, it's sort of like you can never go home again.
Well, so let's talk about, what the other guy they have, and that's Christian McCaffrey. So, that is a dangerous backfield when it comes to trickery because Cam Newton is a true dual threat quarterback. Christian McCaffrey is probably, this generation's Marshall Faulk as a dual threat, running back. So you can do a lot of stuff behind the line of scrimmage with these two. And let's be honest, we have two defensive ends out here in Washington. Our linebackers ain't great. That could cause some problems for this front seven as they currently stand. I don't really know what their plan's going to be, to get Ioannidis involved and Allen involved and Payne involved. Like, do you kick one outside like we've talked about before? I remember I brought that up last week, and they didn't really do that. So...
No, but I mean, especially now that they've had a week to prepare, I think you're right. I mean, the trick is get your four best guys on the field.
Yeah.
And the three of the best guys are easy. Payne, Allen, Ioannidis.
Right.
Who's the last guy? Don't know. But it might be.
Well, really, it's probably Tim Settle, but you can't go 4 defensive tackles.
No. I mean, I think John Allen is probably, of all those guys, is probably versatile enough to do it. But yeah, I mean, you can't get that much beef on the front line.
No. Especially against guys who are going to be more athletic and mobile like this. It's going to depend on your linebackers. I don't know. And again, that's where they're thin. Like, they have 2 linebackers, and then they use the safety as a linebacker. I don't think that cuts it versus this backfield. I think they do need more beef at linebacker this week. I would try and figure out who their next biggest option is and put him out there just to kind of even things out size-wise with Cam Newton. You know,
I laugh not because it's your point. I think you're onto something, but it's just kind of funny to say they need to go find their best linebackers and
no, fattest, not best.
Okay,
we just need weight.
Even they're not even that big though.
I know.
They don't. Linebackers is not this team's specialty.
Everything we have is a weak side linebacker / safety these days.
So the biggest one they have at 6'3", 236 is Jordan Kunachek. That's Kunachek.
Whatever.
Sorry,
whatever.
Him.
We never figured that out. And by
Jordan
the way, that's a small linebacker. That is not a big linebacker.
Yeah, he's not huge, but that's the biggest one they have.
Yeah. This is a physics problem, and we don't have the right size balls to.
Yeah, and to sort of emphasize the point here, I want to give you some offensive stats. And granted, now that Cam's in here, their passing stats really aren't applicable because it was Darnold putting these numbers up.
Yeah.
But what's interesting here, they have a ton of rushing yards.
Sure.
They're ninth in rushing yards at 1,160 yards rushing. They're third in attempts. But their rushing yards per attempt isn't that good, 3.9 yards per attempt. So this is a team that runs a lot out of necessity because their passing game isn't that good. So they had to run, but they're not that successful running the ball either. They just do it a lot. It's kind of like, if you keep doing it enough, you're eventually going to gain some yards. Because passing-wise, like Sam Darnold, before he went out, was passing to below 60% completion percentage, 71% or 71.3 quarterback rating. 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He was not doing a good job.
No.
Statistically. So can Cam come in there and do better? I mean, again, I kind of think he's washed up. So I think that we're probably going to see more of the same from the Panthers, plus a smidgen of DJ Moore thrown in there. But then the wild factor is what you said, which is, how much are you going to run Cam Newton?
Yeah. Well, and, it is interesting that they've been so run heavy. I obviously watched a lot of Matt Rule when he was at Temple coaching, and he is a run-first coach, no question. He uses 2 running backs. He runs a lot of these college triple option plays, at least he did at Temple, and I'm assuming at Baylor too. He probably didn't change his playbook that much. So Cam fits well in what the style of run game Matt Rule has liked historically. P.J. Walker obviously played for Matt Rule too at Temple, and he set passing records there, but he was a short passer. It was all dink and dunk. They didn't go downfield a lot. So that
Colt
doesn't
Brennan
fit.
set passing records at Hawaii too. So
Yeah. Well, but no, Colt set them for the whole NCAA. I'm talking PJ just set them for Temple. It's not an impressive thing. It's not. It's like 10,000 yards passing in 4 years. It wasn't that great. But I'm just saying, like, he was a short to intermediate guy. They didn't do what Cam likes that you were talking about, like chunking it downfield, trying to pick up 20, 30 yards at a time. That wasn't their game.
But I don't think P.J. Walker's going to see the field.
No. I'm just saying more like, what does Matt Rule like to do? Exotic run game, very run heavy, and then you use the short to mid passing game to kind of set you up.
And here's the other thing. In spite of the fact that the Panthers are 5-5, meaning they're 2 games better than Washington, well, they would be. I mean, haven't had their bye yet, but
they're 2.5 games or whatever that is.
Yeah, but I don't think this is that good a team.
No,
overall. Let's think about who they've. So they start out 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
Here's who they beat: the Jets, which are terrible.
Yep.
The Saints played a horrible game in week 2, terrible. And they were still getting used to not having Drew Brees. They just didn't play well. The Texans are horrible in week 3. Those are wins. Then they proceeded to lose 4 in a row to the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Giants.
The Giants, yeah.
Then they squeaked by the Falcons, who Washington squeaked by, the Patriots, and they beat the Cardinals without Kyler Murray.
And it was basically the Cardinals' backup roster. If they were
Yeah,
without a
and
lot
I
of
think
stars.
J.J. Watt might be out too, if I recall. Is he not out?
I don't
Down
remember
there?
if J.J. Watt's out, but Hopkins was out.
Yeah. Point is,
Yeah.
it was a very injured Cardinals team. So they played a weak sister schedule, completely weak. They have not faced the gauntlet like Washington has, and so
Right.
I don't think this is a very good team. I don't think that Cam Newton is going to come through. I mean, he could cause problems on the ground for sure. He's going to air it out. He's going to try to get some big chunk plays from DJ Moore. There's no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is a particularly capable team. And if Washington plays anything close to like they played last week, I mean, I think they have a pretty good shot in this game. The line, when I checked on Monday, was 3.5 points.
In Washington's favor, or
No, it's Panthers 3.5.
Okay,
And
so
remember,
it's a
this is a
toss-up.
home game for the Panthers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a toss-up.
that's a toss-up, so that's not bad for us line-wise.
And even DJ Moore, I mean, DJ is 6 foot. He's a burner. He runs low 4.4s. So this isn't a guy who, it's like the Chiefs who've got enormous receivers out there, 6'5", and all of that. I mean, I think he's a guy who maybe the secondary can play pretty well against when you see William Jackson out there in man coverage and whatnot.
If you want an honest comp, their passing game and roster when it comes to passing is almost the same as Washington's, if you think about it. You have one good receiver who's Terry's not that tall. Terry's, I think, 6'1". So DJ Moore, they're not big guys. Moore's probably just a little faster. And then you've got...
No, Terry's faster. Terry was timed in the 4.3s.
Is he really?
Yeah, at
Moore looks
Ohio
like he's
State
faster. But I guess
regardless.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're really passing to running backs after that and a bunch of other junk. So
And I mean, J.D. McKissick is kind of the poor man's Christian McCaffrey.
exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
This passing game, it's still Ron Rivera's offensive play design here, I guess.
But just purely from a number standpoint, from Christian McCaffrey, remember he got hurt and everything. He was out all last year, wasn't he? Most of last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 348 yards rushing, 79 attempts, 4.4 yards per attempt in rushing. 32 targets, 30 receptions, 283 yards, no touchdowns. One rushing touchdown. He's not been like the game-changing back that he was, at least not yet. He's only played 5 games.
Right.
But he hasn't been like the Christian McCaffrey in capital letters that he was, early in his career.
But still, that's about 100 yards a game, or just over 100 yards a game.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's a slouch. I'm saying, is he a game changer? He has not been a game changer this year. That's what I'm saying.
No. But look at who's been throwing the football. I mean,
P.J. Walker and Sam Darnold who's throwing him the football.
Right, doesn't help.
No.
And Cam Newton will throw it to him more because Cam Newton can't go downfield. He'll just dump it off a lot.
But he might. That's the thing to capitalize on. You just said it.
Yeah.
Cam Newton can't go downfield as well, but he's still going to try because his name is still Cam Newton.
Right.
This may be a good interception game.
Yes,
for
he
Washington.
has the ego of Rex Grossman with the downfield ball.
Yes. Yes, he does.
A few people will get that reference, I hope. So
surely, we're Washington, for God's sake.
Yes.
Surely you guys get that.
All right, let's flip sides here. Let's talk about Washington versus this defense. This is a good defense. Even though their offense has struggled, let's be clear. This is a very good defense that Washington's going up against. They have a lot of speed. One of my guys I wish we had drafted, Hassan Reddick, is going nuts. I think he's got 10 sacks already.
9.5, but
9.5.
Yeah,
close enough. So
that's what some Chase Young guy should have had so far.
Right? Yeah, some kid who we drafted, but Hassan Reddick, a cornerback turned into edge rusher. I will put that out there too. That's why he's fast. And they bring a lot of pressure from the linebacker level. They have Sadiq, or is it Shaq Thompson?
Yes.
Yeah. They have a couple big names on that. I'm looking at the roster right now. Who else they got?
Well, while you're
Yeah,
looking, I mean, they have 27 sacks on the year, which is fourth in the NFL.
it's a
And
lot.
in terms of their sacks, whatnot, I mean, you're other than Reddick, you're looking at Brian Burns, who's the other defensive end. He's got
Right, right,
six.
right.
It's really those two guys are getting the bulk of them. But here's my point: don't forget who they've played. Okay.
Sure.
Yes, they have put up big numbers. Look, they've only given up 193 points. They're second in yards, total yards, second in passing yards. They haven't been as successful against the rush. 15th in rushing yards per attempt. They're giving up 4.2 yards per attempt, which is, if you take Taylor Heineke out of it, that's below Washington's running back group. But don't forget that this is a team that's faced the Jets, the Texans, the Eagles, and the Giants. Okay?
Yep.
I mean, and
They
if you look at
feasted, is what you're saying.
yeah, and if you look at the teams that ran up a bunch of yardage on them, well, the Cowboys put up 433 yards. The Vikings are getting close to 600 yards,
Right.
570 yards. They rushed for 198 yards, so almost 200 yards. And Dallas ran for 245 yards. The Patriots 273 total yards, 150 yards rushing. It's the
Right.
sucky teams, the Jets, the Saints in the early part of the year. The Texans are horrible. The Falcons are, terrible, mostly terrible. The Cardinals backup team, they 65 yards. It's the bad teams are holding down the good teams. So I think this defense statistically looks better statistically than they really are. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand your point. We're kind of facing the reverse of that here in DC still,
Yes.
where, our numbers are inflated because we've played some good teams.
Yeah, like I don't think Washington's defense. Certainly, they've played some horrible, stinky games, but I mean, was it fair to say they were the worst defense in the league? No. When you look at who they faced, I mean, my goodness, look who Washington's played. They've played every team in the conference championship games.
Somehow they've had one of the toughest strength of schedules in this league this year. And,
Well, yeah. I mean, they played the Bills, the Bucks, the Chiefs, and the Packers, for God's sakes.
Right.
All four teams, last I checked, were in the 2020 conference title games.
Yep.
And then throw in the Chargers. I mean, it's. I think Washington's defensive numbers look worse than they are, and I think the Panthers' defensive numbers look better than they really are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you attack this defense? Given that what they love to do is bring pressure. They love to, they are overall very good against the run, though. You look at what defenses have done rushing the ball. They've had some very stingy days. I mean, I know there have been some some of their losses. They gave up a lot of yards, but I think you've got to somehow, throw into the blitz with Taylor Heineke, which I know is not his strength. Because one thing I noticed is when they're getting pressure, it's because they're bringing in their linebackers. So you got to have a tight end kind of leaking out there to take advantage. Or in our case, it's probably using J.D. McKissick that way. Having him out there in the flats, in the shallow spots to catch those balls when pressure's on.
Yeah, I think they're a better pass defense than they are a run defense. And like all those sacks, you can't hide the sacks. I mean,
No.
the sacks aren't just good team, bad team. They've legitimately got a ton of sacks. And they're, like you said, it's Reddick and Brian Burns.
Right.
But which are their two main pass rushers, but they're going to get a ton of pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah.
So, how do you attack that? I mean, it's not too dissimilar from how to attack Tampa in a way, in that I'm not too worried about time of possession and all that, but I think to keep those pass rushers away, you got to establish a run game, which is something Washington has not been good at all year, of course. The non-Taylor Heineke rushers have not been good, but I think that's going to be important. I think that's where you start in a game like this.
Yeah, I think that'll help. I mean, if nothing less, it takes some pressure off of them early on, and the old axiom of how running in the first quarter slows them down the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It still holds true. even in
Well,
today's NFL. So.
I'm just concerned about the pass rush. I mean, they've got a bunch of,
Yeah.
it's like the bad news bears out there at this point on the offensive line, for God's sakes. Will Sam Cosmi be back? I mean, at least he was limited, but I mean, Tyler Larson is the starting center, and Scherf is out again, and who knows if he'll play. So they've got a bunch of no names.
Yeah. Plus
Charles Leno on the offensive line, and that's not necessarily good when you're facing a deceptively good pass rush. I think that's the strength of Carolina's defense is their pass rush,
Absolutely.
and the strength of the pass rush is Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns.
Yeah. It's the two edges.
Yeah.
And then they bring in Shaq Thompson. They bring in they'll blitz a safety pretty often and a corner pretty often. They like to bring pressure. They really do. So you've got to compensate with that with some quick passes. You got to compensate for that with the run game, like you said. Don't try and take deep shots. I don't think that this is the game for that necessarily.
I mean, you can't play totally conservative, but no, I generally agree that this is probably not that game.
No. If you're going to take a deep shot, go max protect, though. I'm playing fairly conservative this
Don't
game.
go Steve Spurrier.
Yeah, yes. Which, let's be honest, that seems to be what Scott Turner does. How many times a game do you think we see 5 guys blocking, 5 guys running routes?
Well, and it should be pointed out that we're down to like our 19th string tight end at this point.
That's true too. But and our 4th receiver is our 2nd receiver, and it's a mess. And we're like that on the O-line.
So all that to say, establishing the run game to counteract the combination of a lack of skill players and a pretty brutal pass rush. Yeah. Statistically, this is the best pass rush they faced all year.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it may be a boring game for fans to watch, but I think you're going to see a ton of running because Carolina and Cam Newton isn't going to turn into Tom Brady either.
No.
So it's going to be a lot of running. This game may be one of these games that the run time is like 3 hours.
I don't mind that, honestly.
Get it done. Get it over with.
Let's get this one over with. See if we can get to 2:30. Let's see how quick we can make this one.
Let's forget the timeouts. Let's just get it done.
Yeah. Can we no more stopping the clock? You go out of bounds. We're just gonna make this a straight 60-minute.
It's a running clock. It's like soccer. Running clock at all times.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Why don't we do scores and wrap this thing up?
Okay.
All right. So, given what we said, I'll give you my score prediction right now.
Okay.
I'm going to say this is a low-scoring affair, something along the lines of 17-16 with Washington eking out a win here.
I'm going to say that they can score a few more points than that. I'm a little bit worried about the letdown after the big game.
Sure.
Just mentally, can these guys get it together a second week in a row, particularly on a travel week? And granted, it's not a long trip, but still they're not at home. But I do think Washington's just a better team than the Panthers, particularly with a new quarterback in there. So I'm going to say it's more like 24-17.
Okay.
Washington.
I could see that too. That's still pretty low scoring these days. So.
Yeah, right. I don't think Washington's not going to get up in the 30s. I don't think in this game.
No, I don't think so. All right. Well, I think that should wrap us up this week. We'll see.
Remember, somebody fill me in on who Wale is, please.
Yes. And at least we didn't say whale. I think the first time I ever saw his name, I said whale, and someone was like,
I'm sure I did too.
White guy.
So Alex is going to watch out an eye out for Twitter and let me know if somebody tweets this in.
Yeah, somebody let us know about Whaley. Or Wale.
I think it's Wale. I'm almost convinced
Wale.
It's Wale.
It is Wale.
Okay.
But
let me know if that's his real name too. If his parents just named him really poorly, or if that's a stage name.
Well,
I'd like to know that too.
I'm sure it's a stage name.
I'm joking.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Sometimes it's not. So I don't know. All right, guys. We will talk to you after the show. Later.
After the game.
We're
not going to talk to you after the show.
Yes. All right, we'll talk. All right, guys, we'll talk to you guys after the game. Steve, I'll talk to you after the show.
Okay.
All right, bye.